Hey guys, welcome to my channel. This is basically just going to consist of me playing games and commentating or just playing them, I guess. I don't know. I've always wanted to do this, so I figured I'd give it a try. Alright, let's queue up. Alright, I get support. So for those of you who have not played Overwatch before, as you can see, there are three distinct, I guess you could say, classes, or maybe roles would be a better word. So it's tank, DPS, and then support. So the DPS is, so the tank's job is to protect the team and kind of absorb a lot of the damage. Obviously, with like different shield heroes, like Reinhardt, for example, he has a large shield that can protect your teammates. Orisa also has shield. They all have different like shielding or protective abilities. And in Roadhog's case, it's just absorbing the damage with his larger health pool. So not all of them have shields, but it's everything has a distinct role, and I'll get more into that. Right now I'm playing support, as you can see. My job is to heal my team and to make sure they can stay alive, to keep me alive.
This will heal.
I stopped playing Overwatch for a while. I used to play on console, but now I play on PC, obviously. And I missed it. I mean, there was ups and downs, but there's advantages and disadvantages. Like, for example, gaming on a computer typically is almost easier, but like it's a lot easier to like aim and such with a mouse, just because you have more maneuverability with your hands, or essentially, and because of this, it has a higher skill ceiling. It's just like there's more opportunity to be with like people of a much higher skill than on Xbox, for example, or console, which just shows a lot, honestly, because there's a very large difference in competitive play on PC compared to consoles. I mean, it's not necessarily like it's like just a significant difference between like skill levels between every single player, but just like I feel like with joysticks you have very limited movement with your one thumb, and it's like your thumb is a lot less articulate than say your entire hand and wrist and forearm muscles. So it's much easier to aim on PC, and that's why a lot of people kind of like dislike consoles, and they kind of like insult a lot of console players. And a lot of people bring up the debate where it's like, yeah, PC gives you much higher frame rates and such, and like it's just much smoother gameplay, and also you can record what you're doing, like what I'm doing now, and you can stream, yada yada yada, stuff of that nature. But my problem with that argument is, so basically with consoles you get like 30 frames per second, like on a typical Xbox. Obviously PS4 can get 60 now, and PS5 can get, God knows, it's probably even larger than that depending on what mode you are in the game you're playing. But anyways, consoles, they get like 30 to 60 on average with most games. It's like at least most. Obviously, new gen is changing every day, but so you're paying with consoles. You're paying like $300. You're paying like $300 for like 30 frames per second, and it's just like a casual like daily player. And it's only for $300. PCs are just like so much more expensive than typical like consoles, because consoles are like $300. But in order to get like there's like much higher frames that you get on PC, you have to get higher quality, not really higher quality, more powerful parts. Like the parts in my computer are just like the parts in most computers are stronger than just better than most parts in the traditional console. Okay, we just got steamrolled, and I'm gonna change because Anyways, so you're basically like certain PCs nowadays can run for anywhere from like 1,000 to 2,000, depending on like what kind of graphics card, CPU, how many gigabytes of RAM you have, all that kind of thing. It really depends. And it's like, if you really are gonna like if you think it's worth it to get those extra 60 frames and just like smoother gameplay, and also I think, me personally, I like playing on PC more because it's like, again with the aiming, it's just more fun to play because I don't have to like, I have more fun in video games when I perform well in video games. So that's just me personally, but, and also there's more games available because, you know, there's exclusives on console and such, but it's interesting because it's like a lot of people, some people have PCs, but you're literally, it's like almost inefficient. Like you're paying so much more money for like 60 more frames per second per se. Sort of, that kind of thing. It's very interesting how that concept. Not really interesting. It's not really a concept, but like, it's kind of, it's not really a dilemma either. It's just like, I don't know. Okay, this Anna is on top of her biotic grenades. Yeah, there's three kinds of classes. Like I said, support, tank. Okay, I'm gonna, of course. There's the tank, support, DPS I was talking about. So tank, I already explained. Protect the team, absorb damage. And sometimes they do a lot of damage. It's just a lot of, that's like a lot of prevention and protection, where support is healing and protection. And in some cases, it's like utility as well. Well, not necessarily utility, just like support. It's self-explanatory, healing. And then, okay, we want and there's, of course, there's different like types of healing. There's like passive healing where you heal the entire team. Like Lucio, for example, he can heal like the entire team at the same time with like an area of effect around him. And then there's heroes like Mercy who have a healing stream that can heal one person at a time, but it's much stronger heals. So there's different advantages and different healers are better in different situations. So it's like each game you need to have like a proper team comp or team composition, yada yada yada. Because if you have like a bunch of, and also it depends on like how different characters are played. So I'll go into the training. To explain this phenomenon further. So yeah, tank, diva, these are all. So Winston has shields, Sigma has shields, Reinhardt does, Orisa does, and then Zarya has a special kind of bubble, which basically prevents like a lot of damage towards you. I think to a certain degree. I'm not sure what the health of like the actual bubbles themselves are. I'll show you. So you can put a bubble around yourself, and then damage done to you increases your energy, which is a part of her main weapon. And the more energy you have, the more damage you do with your weapon. And so you see, I can put them on. You see my energy's going up. And then it goes up to 100. Obviously, these training enemies don't do a lot of damage, so they don't charge you up as much. But basically, it's good one-hit protection as well. But the more energy you have, the higher damage your beam does. I'm not sure about the secondary fire, but yeah, it's like everything has disadvantage. There's pros and cons. There's not as many cons as there. It's just like different usages. And then, like, you know, Winston, shield, Sigma, shield, Reinhardt, shield, Orisa, shield. And a lot of different shields have, you know, different shapes, different health pools. Like, as you can see at the top of my screen, my shield has 600 health left. So there's a disadvantage. It's a much lower health pool than Reinhardt's shield, for example, which has 1500 health. But this one I can keep putting more down, and it's more disposable. And then Diva is kind of like Zarya in the sense that her shields don't necessarily come in like a barrier, like Reinhardt's and Sigma's, for example. It's more it's called a defense matrix, where I basically just absorb all damage that comes towards it. instead of just like downright blocking it and like having it come into a health pool, it's more of a like absorption that has no consequences. But because of this, because that has a lot of potential to be just like overpowered, it has a very like limited use time. As you can see by the bar, it goes down really quickly, and then it takes time to recharge. And then D.Va also protects her team by having just like such a large health pool. Like you can see in the bottom left, she has 600 health, which is 3 times that of the normal DPS. And D.Va is unique because although she's a tank, like which tanks are like, you know, large and like not really slow because every character like walks the same speed, but she's like they're typically not very like mobile. She has a booster and such like, and like she's just good for general annoyance because these rockets that I'm shooting are her micro missiles. They don't do that much damage. Like I'll show you, like in the grand scheme of things, like that's like what, like 80 health done? It's like I guess a little. That's not that bad actually, but when you do shoot them, like most of the time you're moving, most of the time like not even all of them hit. Whatever, okay, that's fine. And then there's tanks like Ball, which like obviously he doesn't have a shield at all. He has his advantages to the team is just like kind of like D.Va, like distraction and annoyance. Like as you can see, like he's pretty fast and he has this grappling hook where he can whip around things, hence the name Wrecking Ball. And then because he doesn't really have shield, he has this ability where the more enemies you're around, once you activate the ability, the more shields you get on your body. So he's essentially used for like just like annoyance and like distraction, because he doesn't have a traditional shield, so he shields his teammates by taking the damage. And also, he's really good for hitting like large groups of enemies, like when they're bunched up together. In case when you swing around the corner like this, when you're going at top speed, like he says, you do more damage. So yeah, those are the tanks, the main part for the most part. And his ultimate, and then each character has an ultimate, which is basically an ability as you saw charge up on the bottom of the screen. Hammond's. This is Wrecking Ball, sorry. His name is Hammond. Anyways, his is a minefield. I'll show you that right now. As you can see, my percentage go down a little bit. Obviously with training robots, it's a little hard to coordinate a good attack when they're just like, they're not very condensed in this area. So as you can see, when I do damage, or just do general like ability damage, like that, my ultimate charge goes up. And then ultimates can be used for a lot of things. It can be used for defense, offense, support, kind of like different, like Zarya's ultimate is a Graviton Surge, which is basically like this ball that attracts all enemies like around it, in it, which is good for like team play, because combining like her ultimate with somebody else's ultimate that's like damage based, you basically grouped all your enemies into a place and they can't move, like escape out of. I mean, certain characters have like movement abilities that can like get out of it, but there's like 1 or 2 that can, because most of the time your movement abilities are like disabled when you are, so you can't just like get out of it. So that's like an example of an attack one. I mean, you could also use it for defense, because you can use your Graviton Surge to like keep your enemies out of an area that they need to secure, for example. That's a way to use it defensively. And then like I said, like Wrecking Ball's minefield, that's like, typically you'd think that a minefield is like strictly defense, but you could use it as an offense. If again they're grouped up in Graviton Surge, you could deploy the minefield right on top of them, and then boom, they're right in the middle of it. They take a bunch of damage. And then Winston's ultimate is basically like, he basically turns into the Hulk. Like he gets angry, and then his health increases by double. He instantly gets 1,000 health no matter what health he's currently at when he activates his ability. And you can't use your gun, but you can't use your Tesla cannon. You can't use Tesla cannon, and you become like you can basically it's okay, you essentially become like a melee only character, but you have a bunch of health, so you could use that to either like draw fire from your team while distracting the enemy, And it's like you smack them around. I'll show you. Here, I'm about to have it. And then Winston also has a shield ability like this. Don't, but okay. So Primal Rage. Okay, I activate it. Become enraged. I smack my enemies around. This is really good, as you can see, for knocking enemies off the map, or just straight damage. Like if you trapped a lot of the enemies in like a small area and smack them into a corner. Because usually with that, the downside is like you're smacking them away, so you can't keep doing damage. So if you trap them in a corner, boom, they can't escape. So that's tank. And then damage, DPS. So DPS's job is basically doing damage and being like the blunt force of the team. Not really blunt force, but like, yeah. Actually, like, attacking the enemies that you're up against. And, you know, each character has different ways of doing this. I mean, this is pretty self-explanatory. Each character has their own, like, little quirks and abilities, and plenty of different attack-based ultimates. But that's not necessarily, again, not all ultimates are solely attack-based. For example, like Hanzo's is, I'll show you. I'm just gonna charge up my ultimate. This is a dragon, which basically damages all enemies that are inside of it. Does a lot of damage if you are like staying in it, for example. Like that is an example of an offense-based ultimate. And then there's people that are like, what do you think? So these are mostly offensive. And then, well, Maze. I don't usually play DPS actually. I prefer a more supportive role. I mean, obviously I play whatever my team needs, but her ultimate is basically like an ice storm kind of thing. You can throw down your little companion. Yeah, this guy. You can throw him down, and then he creates this large aura of ice. And this can be used, again, like I've been saying, offensively or defensively. So I can either like put it on a group of enemies and then like they're frozen. Hey, actually, I'll show you the freezing. And boom, they can't attack and they can't move. And her ultimate basically does this to a wide area of things, which can also be paired, like Zarya's, with an offensive ult. Ultimate ability, that is. And that's her. This is her wall, which has a very large health pool, which can be used to block out pushes. It can be used to just block up an area, general defense against attacks. So Mei is more of a defensive DPS, but in the fair, that's just like a rocket storm. Reaper, that's just shotgun, yada yada yada. In Sombra, this is more of a supportive thing as well as an offense thing. So Sombra's main deal is hacking. Like you can basically disable characters' abilities, and you know a lot of heroes are like very ability dependent. Like for example, Tracer. Tracer, like this character, I'll show you her in a second. She has a very low health pool, as you can see from. I'll show you. So this training bot has 200 health. It takes me around 30 bullets to kill him. She has 150 health. Takes me 18, so around that, because this is a really high. Whatever. And Jesus, sorry. Heroes that are very ability dependent, like Tracer. So she's a very low health pool, and because of this, she is very fast. Her ability is blinking, where she basically just like teleports forward and around, and basically like her point is like to be so fast around your enemies that they can't hit you. So if you hack her and she can't move around, she's just basically a sitting duck. And where was I going with this? But anyways, Sombra's ultimate is basically so ability dependent heroes are vulnerable to Sombra. And her ultimate is basically a giant EMP, where I can hack 4 enemies at the same time. Not 4 enemies. I just did hack 4 enemies at the time. But you can hack their entire team at the same time. It just depends on how many players are around you, obviously, because it has a general area of effect. And then she can also go invisible to flank and sneak behind the enemies. I'll show you Tracer real quick. So it's like that. And because she has such a low health pool, she has this ability where she can like kind of go back in time. Not really go back in time, but like rewind and gain back the health that she lost within a certain time frame. I'm not sure what the exact time frame is. I think it's like 2 or 3 seconds. Because it's not very long, even though you can like go a very long distance. But yeah, like you get like a little bit of damage. But because you have to be very careful with Tracer because you know she only has 150 health, and yet. So like you have to be very like cautious and have to be ready to do like recall like any moment. And then Symmetra, so she's a DPS. As you can see, her damage is like crazy. She's more of a defense-based DPS because she can put down these turrets, which can fly. She's also like this is more of a support DPS, but also does like a lot of damage close range. So I can place on these teleporters, which are very useful for my team. It can be used from anywhere from like just straight up transport to like you can use it to get to like a very good defensive or flank position and take like alternative routes that you normally wouldn't be able to without Symmetra. And then her ultimate is also defensive, so it can basically place down this ginormous wall. As you can see, I'll show you. As you can see from the bottom left, it has 4,000 health, which is almost 3 times Reinhardt's shield, and it has a very large. And most people don't realize that this actually has like a health pool, because it's just so large and like has so much health, it'd be a waste of time to even bother just like walking out of it. But it's really good for blocking off like ginormous AOE attacks. Obviously, it doesn't like stop Mei's ult, for example, but like Diva's ult, which is like actually like it can stop Pharah's ult, for example. Because Pharah's ult is primarily like projectiles.
You're not going anywhere.
It's very useful. Like and it's good for defense because it's just very useful. And then Widowmaker's ultimate is another example of support. I'll show you in a second once I charge up her ult. So her ult is infrared vision. So as a sniper, you know, you have to be able to like know where they're like. It's very useful. Like this, for example. You see, I knew he was coming out, so I knew he was coming. I was coming down that wall, so I knew that I would need to be ready to shoot there. Because it's hard to usually predict when you're playing against actual players that aren't like computers. It's hard. It's not hard. It takes skill to predict like where they're gonna be, because they're gonna be like. Obviously, it's easy for me to say that because these are all like a lot of these are stationary targets, but like it's hard to predict a lot of the time. See, like that he stops. It's hard to predict that. So infrared vision basically helps to stop it. Helps to reduce some of that like room for error kind of. So this is actually, let me think of one like he's mainly all attack. And then Ashe's ultimate. I was just playing her. It's it's kind of a mix of offense, defense, and support, because I mean it has different uses. Because you know, like you can say that for a lot of ultimates in this game. You can use a lot of them in many different ways. Like for example, Hanzo's dragon. Hanzo was the bow guy. Hanzo's dragon ult. You can use it either offensively to in a group of enemies, or you can use it to like entirely block off a pathway, if you aim it correctly, obviously. So Ashe's ultimate is, she calls in this giant robot named Bob, who has like 1,200 health, as you can see, and he just shoots enemies that are in his area. And so as you can see, he has offensive abilities, but due to his large health pool, he can be used to distract enemies and also just absorb a lot of damage. Because you know, they're gonna be just like the enemy is gonna be distracted by shooting Bob if he's like blocking something important, either a doorway or he's just like in the middle of it, like an objective. He can be used defensively, like you can just put him on a point and he'll defend by like shooting enemies, or you can like send him in, like right in the middle of the enemy and disrupt them. So that has a lot of different uses. And then, so support. A lot of support's ultimates, they vary from like
Hostile down. The pain.
They're mainly defense or like supportive. It's hard to say. Like Ana, for example. So she's like a long-range healer who has very strong heals. Who her attacks heal teammates, as you can see, but they also hurt enemies.
This is going to hurt.
And like that grenade I just threw, it heals and also increases the amount of healing that my teammates receive, but it also prevents my enemies from getting healed if I hit them with it instead of my team. So her ultimate is called Nano Boost. And obviously I usually call it Nano, but I want to get the exact name. And basically, okay, I'm gonna wait for this guy to die. He's ready to shoot. So I boost an enemy, and it gives them increased damage resistance, and it makes them do more damage. And it also, I'm pretty sure it also restores like a good amount of health. On top of that, so that's like one example of a support ultimate. And then there's Baptiste, who like Ana, his attacks are like ammo based. So instead of like having like a healing staff, this is his primary fire. It's his burst rifle that I really like to shoot and I really like to use. It's very fun. So he shoots these. His secondary fire is these like healing grenades. What are they called? Healing. They just call it a healing projectile. But so it's like a mix. It has dual. I'll show you. Like his gun, you see, it has like you can see it in there actually. Well, now he's emoting, but I'm trying to think of a gun. Yeah, so you can see it has his actual magazine has like two distinct parts, and one of them houses the healing grenades, the healing projectiles, and then one houses the actual bullets themselves. So this is like the pros and cons of projectile and like ammo-based heals. Is that typically the downside is like you can run out of ammo. It's not like extremely consistent. Although like, reloading doesn't really take that long. It's like, you know, I'm shooting it consistently and then I have to reload, which is like not that long. But typically the downside is that, you know, it's not very consistent because it's ammo-based. But the upside is that it heals more because it's limited. So in order to create balance. And then Baptiste's ultimate is called an amplification matrix, which basically amplifies all damage and healing that goes through this square. See, I'm killing them much faster, especially when I hit them in the head. And a little sound plays when you shoot it through here. And so that's an example of an offensive. I mean, you could also use that defensively. Yeah. Each ultimate has uses, both defense and offense. Zenyatta, you can heal your entire team at the same time, and it's basically just like infinite heals, like you can't die unless obviously it's like a one-hit thing, like a giant explosive. It's that kind of thing. Okay, now back to the gaming. Now back to the show. Yeah, that's pretty much that's a lot of the that's the dynamics. And I personally prefer playing. Actually, I can go back to the training range. Well, okay, just kidding. I personally prefer to play support and tank because I like to play a more helpful role, kind of. Okay, I'll play some. I'm not sure. Play Diva. So, like I was saying earlier, Diva is like she's a very aggressive. She's a very aggressive tank. So her large health pool and array of weapons. So she has two shotguns. Here, I'll show you. She has two shotguns that have infinite ammo, I mean, all classes technically have infinite ammo, but like an infinite magazine size, I can just keep shooting forever. But the downside of like it, because you know it's a pro that can shoot forever, obviously. The downside is that it doesn't do much damage at like long range. It's only good for like medium to very close range combat. So it's like an up and down basically. Pros and cons. And then I'll show you defense matrix. Now certain enemies attacks can't be blocked by her defense matrix. Like Zarya's laser, that's like light, so I can't really just like block light. But like projectiles, her defense matrix can block. See, like a lot of Junkrat's Junkrat was a grenade lobber. A lot of his grenades, like I can absorb his grenades and just like entirely, with no consequences on health or. And yeah, I'm utilizing her enhanced movement abilities, and now I gotta block my team with Zarya. And the D.Va, there's another thing about D.Va. Once she's, because you know her character is basically like this woman instead of a tank, instead of a moving tank essentially. It's a mech, but like it's exaggeration. But so once she loses her like 600 health on her mech, she jumps out of it and basically becomes like she only has 150 health and she's like very vulnerable. She has no movement abilities or doesn't do a lot of damage. That's a nice job, eh? So that's that. So right now you see I'm out of okay, yeah, and most of the time you die very quickly. So I have my ultimate now, and it's basically self-destruct where I can I have to jump out of my mech and I can activate it while I'm boosting to like actually send it to like make it fly away. Not really fly away, more like okay, well that's nice. Not fly away, just more like I activate it while it's flying, so it carries that momentum. So it's basically like a flying bomb. It's very useful. It's one of the most powerful ultimates in the game. I mean, damage-wise, obviously. It's very easily avoided because you can just like walk away from it, or if you have a shield, it has to be behind the shield. But then that opens up room for like Sombra to come hack Reinhardt's shield. I don't know why my screen just went black, but it's fine. Sorry about that. So there's heroes like Sombra that can deactivate Reinhardt's shield, which opens up capabilities for the team. So there's dynamics for every team and every game. So I'm probably going to activate my ult soon to make sure that they stay off of the point. This Reinhardt game charging out. Okay, now that the Reinhardt is down, there's no one to shield, and of course nobody's on the point. I probably shouldn't have activated that then. I probably should have waited, but yeah, I definitely should have waited. Goodness. Okay, that was my bad. So that Hanzo was bubbled, so obviously I didn't attack him because I knew it would only shield. It would only give Zarya more actual like damage done to me and my team. Obviously, I try to avoid it like most of the time, but like you can't always prevent it. Because sometimes, like with projectiles, you can't just like stop firing. Like it's already traveled. Okay, I'm actually gonna switch to Sigma for a more defensive approach. Like what was I saying? It's fine. I'll remember in a second. Hold on. Give me a second of buffer. D.Va. Oh yeah. So projectiles. Okay, this Mei is just going on center, even though the team has obviously agreed to go to the right. Goodness sakes. Okay, well I tried to block his. Oh, okay, and I'm dead instantly. And I'm being revived. Just kidding. Just kidding. This Reinhardt is very interesting with his ultimate placements in accordance with his team. But like I was saying, like Zarya's bubbles, if you're shooting like a projectile, you can't just like cancel out if it's already traveling. So it's not always your fault if Zarya gets charged from your attacks. Like Junkrat, for example. Once he's shot his grenade, he can't just take it back. And I'm playing Sigma now. I like Sigma. He's got a lot of use. He's very... I like his absorb ability where he can just like absorb projectiles, like Diva's defense matrix, except with him. Okay, well, that's not good. He can absorb projectiles and absorb I mean absorb literally, like it gives him health in the form of shields, which obviously drain over time, but like. Yeah, now Zarya, I can't really absorb any of her attacks, so she obviously gets the upper hand. And as you can see, she had a golden gun, which basically is, once you've played enough competitive play, I mean quick play, it's like casual play. Once you play enough quick play and you've won enough games, because you know when you win, you gain this thing called SR, which are basically just like a form of, I want to say currency, because currency is typically used in accordance of like exchanging with others, but it's just like points that you can use, and once you get 3,000 of them, you can buy a golden gun for a hero or champion, whatever you want to call it. And it's just basically bragging. And it doesn't make it any better. It just is a flex. So this Junkrat just chose not to get on the point. He didn't even bother to touch because he was probably worried about dying. But it's more important. I'm gonna endorse my supports because I always appreciate the people who heal me. Anyways, it's very good to, like with points and stuff, if you don't touch, you just let the enemy cap it, then you lose. Like a lot of times you have to throw your body on the point to prevent them from capping further. And you have to, because when the clock hits 0, obviously if nobody's on the point, then and they haven't have and they hadn't have. Anyways, sorry. Obviously, if they are capturing the point and they finally get all 3 rings completed, then you lose the point. And it's important to stop it from being capped. So obviously, it is better to risk dying than to lose. Alright, so now I'm playing Winston. So, as I was going over earlier, actually I didn't really go over this. Winston, the point of Winston is basically disruption and annoyance. Because, you know, his Tesla beam, his Tesla cannon, as I showed you in the practice range, it doesn't do a lot of damage, but it can hit multiple enemies at the same. Actually, it can damage the entire team at the same time.
Sometimes a measure of caution is needed in a scientist.
So his point is other times you can jump into the group of enemies with his leap attack and then just spam on them, and just just do general damage to all of them to distract their team from damaging yours. And of course they have a Bastion. Of course he's getting healed at the same time. Okay, so Bastion, as you can see, he is just like a giant. He is just literally a minigun. He's like a giant machine gun that can get posted up It just does absurd amounts of damage. And it's like, oh yeah, the downside of Bastion is that he's stuck in one place when he's in that form. But he can do like he see he can just shred me instantly. I believe that Bastion is extremely overpowered. Like this, see, he jumps back, machine gun form, and then boom, I'm dead instantly like that. It really, it's very annoying. You know what? Actually, just to counter Bastion, I'm gonna go Sigma. I'm very sour towards Bastion players.
Teleporter online.
Now the Symmetra is put down a teleporter for us to kind of flank, surprise the enemy. Of course, I just charged the Zarya a bunch because I. Cool. So as you saw, the Symmetra put her teleporter up there, and we were able to come from like a different angle, because this main choke was where they were like keeping us down. So when we came from up there, we were able to secure a defensive position and then secure the objective. So this kind of game mode is like there's a control point and then there's a payload, which you need to push to the next control point. Not next control point. You need to push it to the next. Where's this Bastion? Ugh. Anyways, you push to the next checkpoint, and then you get your spawn point moves up with it. Because you know, I haven't died yet, but you'll see when I die to this Bastion inevitably. You. Perfect. Okay. You'll see, so since we captured that point, we spawned pretty far away from it. So now that we captured that point, now I spawn here.
That music, it's playing again.
Which is right outside the point we captured.
The payload in motion.
I'm gonna.
Whereas the payload at rest stays at rest. Area in
Of course, he did that. It's okay. So Sigma's ultimate is like I basically drag everybody that I get in it. Okay, Sigma's projectiles are not good at getting moving enemies very well. I pull everybody up that I get in the influence rate. God, she's really on top of the bubbles. And then once I slam them back down on the ground, which you may have saw, it does half the damage of their entire health pool. So it's really good at eliminating like high health or low health enemies. It's not really good for just straight up like killing. That sounds violent. It's not good for straight up just like offense. It's more you have to use it carefully. I mean, and then you can use it like in concurrence with like another ultimate to get them low, and then do it half their damage, because you know it does half their total health, not their like current health. So like to me it would do 200 damage because I have 400 health naturally, and then but to Roadhog with 600 health it would do 300 damage. And I punished that Ashe for overextending. So yeah, you can either use it to finish off enemies that are already hurt, or you can use it for somebody else to finish them off once you've hurt them. There's different applications for, once again, everything in this game.
Activating the barrier.
Jeez. Thank my supports because they're healing me and such. See, I'm absorbing damage, and you see I just gained like a bunch of health and shields. And they have a bunch of damage. Well, shield it. everybody's pulling out their ults, and I'm probably dead. Yeah. Alright, you got it close, but because the payload was close to their spawn, they had the home team advantage, kind of. Not really. That's not how that works, but. Okay, well I just got okay. Ooh. Thank you. Nice. Oh, can you? Okay, wow. Okay. The Reaper snuck behind us, and then Reaper, who's the guy in like the dark cloak with the 2 shotguns. He has teleportability, and he can use that to flank behind.
Activating the barrier.
Might switch to Zarya. They have a very large amount of damage. Okay, well, I'm gonna die because. Okay, well, if I didn't have my ultimate, I'd switch, but. We have a Widowmaker. Perfect.
It's playing again. Thank you. Barrier in place. The gravitic flux is upon us.
Oh, nice job.
What's that equation?
Yeah, their mercy was just keep them alive. I'm gonna use my ultimate to ensure that they stay off. Okay, just kidding, I missed. But it's okay, we won. Of course I switched back to Bastion. I'm glad that he didn't get out in time. Cool. Hey, look, it's me. This is where I died. I didn't do the Zarya, by the way. Okay, well, one of those kills was Zarya's. 2 of those were assists, but I guess they count as eliminations. Hey, look at me with objective time. Don't ask about my name. It's like an inside joke. It's not supposed to be inherently funny. Alright, well, that's Overwatch. I don't want to make this too long. I'm not sure if anybody's going to sit here for 50 minutes to watch me play this, but well, let me know what you guys think. I enjoyed I'd like to start doing this more often, and let me know if you guys want to see more like single player type games. Honestly, I'd like to get into this more. I'd like to do it, and especially once I have more time after like applying for colleges and such, and all that stuff. But let me know what you guys think, and thank you so much for watching. Peace.